Chris and Eric working really hard on this record. And Chris has probably spent the most time with Eric than any other drummer writing music. And I think, Chris being so young and being of a different generation of metal, he just brought that new freshness or just as young energy to the project. And they were writing a lot of riffs. And I was like listening to some of them going, wow, is that really a metal riff? Or some of them I was just like, huh? Like, I'm not sure. Maybe that one's not going to make the record. But they all made the record. But again, in the end, that's what made the record. Is it has a little variety of everything, and it's a little bit we've touched on throughout our whole career is on this record.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy at GhostCodeMag.com. Once again, joined by the great Chuck Billy of Testament. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good. Just got off the golf course, and here I am.
As you look it. I was about to say you're looking very sharp for a Saturday afternoon, almost high noon. No pun intended.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So we're here to talk some more or less the eve of the album drop for your newest album, Bellum. 37 years in a career, maybe 40, almost 40 years of Testament.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Where does the time go? But I've always felt that the band was very supremely consistent historically, and Bellum is phenomenal. And where I wanted to start was I was getting a lot of vibes that there's a lot more grooves on this record. There's also some outstanding fast thrash, but there's so many good grooves on here. It really took me back to Low or Demonic, which are two of my favorite Testament records beside the earliest stuff that you've been on the road doing and celebrating. So yeah, man, what a killer album. And such a, it's like a fresh thing. We need some fresh thrash for 25,
Well, thank you. And it's funny. Like I mentioned, Chris and Eric working really hard on this record. And Chris has probably spent the most time with Eric than any other drummer writing music. And I think, Chris being so young and being of a different generation of metal, he just brought that new freshness or just as young energy to the project. And they were writing a lot of riffs. And I was like listening to some of them going, wow, is that really a metal riff? Or some of them I was just like, huh? Like, I'm not sure. Maybe that one's not going to make the record. But they all made the record. But again, in the end, that's what made the record. Is it has a little variety of everything, and it's a little bit we've touched on throughout our whole career is on this record, but then some, especially with the black metal stuff.
Yeah, Eric definitely let the black metal riffs fly. I know that's not Skull, so yeah. I know Eric's passion for that stuff. We've chatted a bunch of times about all his influences there. So yeah, it's like a new palette, a new color to paint with, which is awesome. I go back with Dovas. When I lived in Boston, I used to put on charity metal shows, and Dovas, one of his first bands was Sonic Pulse, which was a super cool thrashy band, kind of Megadeth, Testament, Slayer, kind of vibes. And he was phenomenal back then. He's so talented, and he was sort of like the Swiss Army drummer for the time, because you know how drummers do. You always got to replace a drummer sometimes, as you well know. And but yeah, man, I've been taken back, old school, a really great mix of types of songs. No two songs are alike, no skips. This is a really phenomenal, job here by you guys. And like I said, grooves is a thing that I think is a lot of bands try to groove, but they don't have the swing. And I think some of that is Dovas and some of that is Giorgio, of course. Being a fingerstyle bassist myself, I think there's something about that you get the pocket in better with a fingerstyle bassist. Just such a killer record. And again, like you said, just very diverse and anything is possible. What a great time.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and the biggest part of that record is having enough balls and nerve to put out a song like Meant to Be. First of all, because, I know we've been kind of all those ballads that we've had in the past, we've shied away from live. I don't know why. Maybe it's maybe these metalheads aren't going to get it, or maybe they don't want to hear it. We're scared of what someone was going to say. But last year we were doing a Practice What You Preach tour, playing some acoustic songs, but we played from the ballad to the legacy to Trail of Tears. We played everything, and the crowd really enjoyed it. So we're kind of like, you know what? Maybe there's something to this. And it kind of opened me up, like when I first got that song, said, you know, this totally reminds me like a Return to Serenity. It just had this really emotional feeling to it. And we just said, let's go for it. It feels good. Let's do it on this record.
Right on. I think I saw Trail of Tears once in my whole like life of seeing Testament, especially I'm gonna say right around Formation of Damnation. I followed the band around a little bit, and I saw like 3, 4 shows across the country, and that was the tour. I think like, hey, we're gonna do something we don't always do. Hopefully you like it, and
You see,
everybody was
probably
like,
see how I introduced it. Probably
yeah,
like, hey,
exactly. And then it was right back to Over the Wall or something, something to hit him over the head fast. So that was a good time. It was a golden time when we got Testament back after the hiatus and your illness and everything. But yeah, what a fresh Parabellum, which of course, I was going to ask about lyrical topics. Parabellum is the second half of the, if you want peace, prepare for war quote
right.
from Latin that is attributed to a philosopher, Vigidus. I think I probably said it wrong. Uh, just one couple sips of coffee today, so I gotta step up my game. But yeah, that's the famous quotes attributed to a lot of things. But yeah, there's such interesting times, and I'm gonna circle back to Meant to Be in a second. But any particular themes on this record you wanted to hit on? There's definitely some pointed references.
Well, they definitely has general theme of like war, from songs like, Havana Syndrome, which is a silent weapon. There's the song, and it kind of, we step back like on Meant to Be, that people would first listen to that and think it's a love song between two people, but it's actually a love song between humanity and the planet. So if you actually go back and listen to the words, you'll actually go, oh yeah, they are talking about the relationship we had, but in the end, we're still here meant to be as mankind evolving. I went all over the place kind of lyrically on this one. I approached every song one at a time. Those guys are writing so much riffs. I had it so much this like to work with is like, okay, slow down, just this all can't be the same. And the beauty of me working with guys like Steve Souza and Del James writing lyrics, it's always nice to have somebody else and something to bounce them off of, and always to go, okay, let's push the envelope and try this and make this into a metal song. That's always the challenge. But I think the way we approached each song individually, each song stands on its own lyrically and musically. Like you said, it's a non-skip record. You just got to hear each one for what they are.
It's a good idea to unmute myself when I want to talk. Um, I was wondering, I know you write sometimes with Cetro. I didn't know if any of the stuff he worked on with you made the record. I know there was that fun Instagram post that went like kind of viral in the metal community of the two of you guys sitting down with a notepad and pens and coffees.
Yeah,
your metal dads are writing a new album together, or for each other. So
well, it's funny because that was on tour with Exodus, and I think it was that night before maybe that he got the news that he wasn't in Exodus anymore. So I'm thinking, okay, because Zet was supposed to help me write some lyrics before they went on tour, but he's like, oh, I'm going on tour. We didn't have time. So right when he got home, when I seen the news, I'm like, shit, Zet's not busy. Hey, Zet, I just seen the news. Got some lyrics. I know you're not busy. I'm coming over. So we wrote like three songs, and one of them made it. The other two didn't make it. Witch Hunt was the one that made it on the record that we wrote. But again, me and Zet, we've been doing it together for 20, 25 years as well. And Del James, 25, 30 years we've been working together. But I like having another opinion and another set of eyes and another brain helping me think it through.
Right on. I know he had to postpone his tour, but I am looking forward to seeing Zetro get back out on the road and doing like everything from his career, including legacy stuff and Alone in the Dark and stuff that he hinted at doing. So I'm hoping he's going to do some of that. And we wish him the best here. He's always been solid and very supportive of what we do. And Witch Hunt is one of my favorite songs on the record. Actually, I'm glad that made it, because that's a killer song. It's so good.
Yeah, and if you listen to it, you kind of hear a little Zetro in the verses, his style.
Right on. I wonder if you have to kind of like when you're doing words that he can help construct with you, if you start kind of taking on like Zetro phrasing, or Zetro's got his delivery, you have yours. They're not that dissimilar, but they're definitely not the same. Right. Maybe you would, it's good to, you're pushing yourself as a vocalist and an interpreter also, right?
Yeah, and Zetro's style is really like that. Where mine, I try to do that, but be a little smoother. So yeah, on that song, I definitely adapted Zet style, that his really short attack on lyrics, and that's the way that one came out. But when I hear it back, I'll go, that's total Zet. Total reminds me like he could have wrote that for an Exodus lyric, or style. But yeah, and the other two, I went in the studio ready to record them, and it just didn't sit right. Like, I think it was the song High Noon I changed, and the other song I wrote was with him. Uh, Another song I wrote with him that I had to go rewrite again. And it's one of those things where, I could have very easily just settled and said, okay, I'm done. Let's move on. The songs had so much different styles in them. It didn't sit right. And I knew that, okay, I'm not just going to give up. I got to push it a little more, which this record, the way it came together lyrically and the way I worked, I used it the way we did it on Titans of Creation. On Titans of Creation, I didn't challenge the riffs. I just took the riffs and tried to do my best, which actually challenged me and pushed me to an uncomfort zone, which actually made me write and push myself to the limit a little more. So I was happy with the way Titans came out. So I went in the same mindset, like, I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to take the songs and do the same thing, not challenge the riff, just give it to me. Even though sometimes when I listen to it, going, wow, that's not a metal riff, or that's going to be on the New Testament record. I don't know. But in the end, it worked.
Amazing. I now I'll circle back and say "Meant to Be" is going to be the track that I think a lot of people get maybe caught off guard is not fair to say, but they're going to be, they're going to have to take time to absorb it. It develops, right? It's a simmer to a boil, and I think it's a phenomenal track. And I was getting kind of like Fade to Black vibes or Cemetery Gates by Pantera. Just this like little epic, and the guys can do very proggy things. Everybody in the band is, masterfully talented, is upper echelons of music talent, right? So like you could do anything, but I think the choice to create a song like this, I hope it gets heard live. I hope people latch on to it. Maybe a music video, I don't know, but it's pretty epic.
Yeah, it's funny you use that word epic, because when Eric went to New York to Alex's for the first time ever to work with him, he came back and I asked him how to go, and he's like, went great. We worked on some stuff. I'm like, well, let me hear it. And he's like, well, we're not done. We're still working on it, but we're working on this thing. It's going to be epic. And I said, dude, man, that's a pretty strong word, epic, huh? But it was. Once I got the riff and the music, I'm like, wow, that takes me back to like a Return to Serenity and a total classic testament with them two working together. It was epic. I was a little nervous because it was an 8-minute song, and I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot of lyrics here. And then once I found my place lyrically, and I didn't hear the rest of it, I thought maybe when I wrote it that, man, I'm not done. I need to write a lot more lyrics. It wasn't the case, because Alex and Eric just took it to this guitar lead journey after the lyrics in that middle section. Really, some leads and styles I had never heard in Testament. And Alex and Eric really took that to a different level, and then bringing it back down at the end, it just turned out so good, and in the end, it did turn out epic. And it was so good that we sat and said, you know what, maybe we should try some strings on here, or string quartet or something. And then Alex said, hey, I know David Eggers, I could see if he wants to work on it. And David was very excited to do it. And I think without any direction, he came in and just nailed it. The way he bends his notes on it and moves within the riff, perfect. And it's just one of those songs. I think you don't have to be a metalhead, even if you're not a metalhead. And if you're a metalhead, you're probably going to like the track, because it's just really emotional. It's something about it.
Right on. I'm so glad it's a real I'm so glad it's Eggers, a real cellist. Not that, listen, if you can't afford a cello, person to come in and arrange and record, and you use synths or whatever, or samples, fine. Like, no shade, but like, I love that it's like at this point in this historic band's career, we're getting like an actual cello player to come in and do the part. So good.
Yeah, he did an amazing job. So good. And that just opens doors for the future to like not be scared to put yourself out there like that.
Right on. Don't be afraid to be sensitive, people. It's okay. Yeah. Show your feelings. Be vulnerable. People like that. Yeah. Makes you relatable. Everybody, I'm glad you were talking about Eric and Alex. Everybody, I mean, Alex's leads on this thing are bananas. But Peterson, who's very accomplished, doesn't give himself nearly enough credit as a soloist and a harmony player, has some great leads on here. You can pick him out. Finally, yeah. I think now you can really pick him out of each song when he comes in, and the trade-off, and it's terrific.
Yeah. I think Eric he's never been the outspoken guitar player, always the unsung hero, and he writes all the music, but Alex gets a lot of the accolades because he's so good. I think, it's always been a little chip on Eric's shoulder, I think, just being that. And he's always like, pushed himself to like make room for him to play his solos in the current records a lot. And I'm glad he has, because he's came a long way. He's gotten so good. And some of the record, I was like, oh, is that Alex or Eric? I mean, it's some of I had to really kind of listen and go, wait, that's not Alex's tone. That's Eric. So I had to pick those out like yourself. But again, Eric, his riff writing, but his solo playing just is a notch up on this record. I don't know if it's because he didn't have to really tell Chris a lot. Chris just got in there and did it, with his guidance. But I think maybe that just opened up more room for him to focus on his parts too,
Word, I love that. And, maybe Peterson has such a poker face. Maybe what he needs to do is work on his guitar faces a little more like Alex does. Maybe he's been doing it since he's a teenager, so he's got it down on lock. He's got it on lock, right? But like maybe Peterson, just make a few more faces when you take a lead, bro.
Yeah. Well, I think he's opening up as a person. He's always just been shy and not the guy to step up for interviews and all that stuff, to where now he sees what it's done to him for so long being that way, that now he's like, you know what? I can't do that. I want to be known. I want people to know that I'm the backbone for this band. I need to get out there. So I'm glad now he's taking the time to step up. He's shooting videos, he's talking in interviews, and he's making it known that, hey, I'm the main guy here,
Right on. I love that, and I love that for him. We had an in-person interview. I remember those about 10 years ago back in New York City, and I remember that he seemed a lot more relaxed even then. Like he was like just much more chill than I met the band a bunch of times as a fan before I was a journalist. So, super fun time. And I'm really proud of him. And I'm proud of all of y'all. This record is a banger. Of course, I got to talk about another incredible cover by Cantor, right? Like, holy shit. It does seem to have the a little bit of the practice what you preach color palette, like the yellowish orange. Yeah. But such a beautiful piece of work. And again, the band has always been so good at visuals. It's like refreshing to get real artwork done by a real person, no AI, nothing against, again, people who are broke or need to rely on AI, but it's super nice to get like the realness of this record come through in the artwork.
Well, it's funny you say that, because originally with the first song lyrically and musically was Infanticide AI. So Eric right away said, okay, that's what the album's going to be called, while working with Elaran on the cover. Now, me and Eric kind of knew that, we wanted to bring the nuclear explosion, because we had a legacy flyer back in the start of our career that started out with the nuclear explosion with the legacy guy pushing the buttons. And last year we just got this inflatable legacy guy with the hands ready to push the buttons. So we're like, yeah, let's kind of recreate that flyer and have the nuclear image. But we didn't want to open the door for people to criticize and say, well, it's beautiful. Is this album cover AI? Oh, did they use AI to help write these lyrics? And so we just wanted to shut that door and say, no. And the sketches I seen, it didn't really make sense with the title AI when it was going along. And when we came up with Bellum, Prepare for War, wow, that fit perfectly with that and the angelic angel with the missile wings. I thought that was brilliant that he came up with that. It's so beautiful looking, and I can't wait to see it on stage in the backdrop. It's just going to be like, whoa, holy smokes, it's going to look awesome. And it did, like you said, when I first seen it, because all of our records have a different color palette, this one just popped out like, whoa, it is kind of like Practice What You Preach, so vivid and bright and fresh,
That was it, man. That was it. Super nice to see. It's going to look super cool on shirts and merch and the vinyl and everything. I'm very excited about that. And shout out to Nuclear Blast, always doing a great job on the packaging. You've been with them for a long time. And of course, our pal Kristen, who set us up. Super thanks. Yeah. And obviously you've been doing this anniversary tour vibe for a while, and now we have a new record coming out. So how much of the new record do you think we're going to get to hear live initially?
A lot. We're going over to Europe next week, and we're playing 2 out of the gate. and we're going to add a third one in there before the end of the tour. So we start rehearsals tomorrow again, and we're talking, we already got those three new songs that we're going to put in down. So now we're going to start playing with some of the other ones just to see how they feel live. Because, you know, that's always the problem. You're like, oh, that's going to be a great song live. And you get in the studio to rehearse it. And you're like, it's just not hitting as good as the record. And so these songs, I think, are going to hit really well live.
I could not agree more. I think that's actually 100% right. And Shadow People, which I didn't mention, was the second single, and it's a banger also. So it's just a lot of bangers, people. Brace yourselves, gird your loins. It's going to be a very exciting time for some new thrash metal in 2025. It's hard to believe. It's like a genre that is 45 years on we're still getting leaders putting out fresh things, and new bands, up and coming bands, getting signed all the time, doing fun things. So it's a very refreshing time to be a fan of metal.
Well, you know, it's kind of like a full circle. You know, it's not like we're trying to replicate what's current and the new bands are doing, but we're inspired, you know, to take what these guys have done with what they've been inspired off us and creating new styles of metal, which full circle takes us back. And that's why I think maybe like Chris being so young, being a part of that, brought that to this band right now with this record, where, you know, it doesn't sound like we're just rehashing riffs and we don't sound like a band that's been around 40 years just going through the motion. We're still enjoying that we're being challenged, and I'm still enjoying that I'm finding different textures and layers of voices that I haven't used before, you know, because maybe some of those other records early on were one-sided in one direction and one feeling, where this record's got everything, you know. And I think we're confident enough to, like, you know what, it is, and it is a finished song, because Eric even said, you know, maybe you should go back and sing that again. I think maybe, I don't know if that just like sounds like it's the demo. I'm like, no, I just hear it that way. That's just the way it's got to go. And then over time it grew. And he's like, you know what, you're right. I don't hear it a different way now, you know? So I'm just excited that we did accomplish something, like, cause you're always trying to raise the bar and outdo yourself. And I think Eric and them did it on this record. And I joked to Eric, it's like, we've been lucky, we've been writing some really good records. We're due to write a shitty record. When is that going to happen?
Oh, I doubt it, man. I don't know. I've been a fan from the beginning. I doubt it could be a shitty record, but I will say this. Interestingly enough, you know, thinking about the friendship and the partnership with you and Eric and Skol, also going all the way back, you know, we've had a tough summer, us metalheads, right? We lost Ozzy, Brent Hines tragically, Thomas Lindbergh. These are all people you toured with, festivals, you knew them. You know, do you ever worry about, like, there's an end to Testament someday? Do you not think about it yet? Is it too soon?
Think about it, but, you know, all we all say is the minute we're not having fun or can't perform 100%, that's when we'll throw in the towel. But I don't think, if anything, we're aging like wine. I think we're just kind of, we know what we do. I think we've been doing it long enough that, you know, the way I look at it is like, if you're a weightlifter and you've been lifting weights for 40 years, you're probably going to be pretty fit and strong. And that's the way I look at it as metal. You know, we've been doing it so long and doing different variations of it. I think we got a good grip on who we are as Testament, but we're inspired by what's going on, but we don't want to be them. We want to just try to make Testament, you know, advance in our own world, you know. And I think we've done it since The Gathering. I think that's been our accomplishment since then of every record we've done. It's just, we keep raising the bar up.
Word. I love The Gathering. I still listen to it every couple of weeks. I find myself hearing those tracks, 3 Days in Darkness and DNR and True Believer. Oh my God. Still so great, and hopefully still in the set list, some of those things.
They are.
Dovas can totally play all the Lombardo stuff, by the way. No, you know, we love Dave here. So, you know, again, I love that kid, and I'm really proud of him and all of you for this record, Parabellum. Last question. I always like to end these with a wild card question. This record's coming out during spooky season. It's Halloween time. Do you have any favorite family Halloween traditions? You know, you'll be on tour probably, but, you know, what do you do? What do you do?
I get home October 26th. So right before Halloween. And the last 3 years, I haven't got to decorate. I go crazy. I have a haunted house in my garage that you can walk through one door and out the next. And I have it totally set up with animated creatures moving. So when I first moved into my new house here, it used to be the neighborhood haunted house. So all the kids, when I first moved, said, "Hey, are you guys going to have the haunted house like the old guys?" I'm like, okay, I guess I got a whole tradition. So I started buying all these animatronic figures and put together a haunted house, and I go off crazy. I put on the whole costume. I scare the shit out of kids when it comes Halloween. And the last 3 years I haven't done it. So the neighbors have been every year, "Are you going to do?" "Oh no, I'm not doing it." "Oh no." So this year my wife said, "I'm leaving next Thursday." She's like, "You're setting it up this year before we leave, just so the kids know when we get home, you can finish it up, get the garage set up, and have those kids come to the haunted house." So yeah, I do it. I miss it. My neighbors throw Halloween parties all around the neighborhood. So it's going to be on this year.
I love the idea of Chuck and family scaring the shit out of all the neighborhood kids. That's perfect. And play them some Testament while they're there. Chuck, man, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for being very supportive of what we do for a very long time. Congratulations on Parabellum, October 10th on Nuclear Blast Records. Good luck on the tour. Be safe, be well, be healthy, and we'll see you at one of the shows for sure. Thanks, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. We'll see you.